Hello, everyone, and welcome to another session of Office Hours. My name is Adrian, and today we are going to be talking about 3 pillars of a growing product business in 2020. Before we get into that, though, let's just go over a few things. Well, this is Office Hours session number 38. It's the 21st of April, and we're in the midst of a global lockdown. So I hope everybody's staying safe and everybody's keeping occupied while we're all kind of stuck indoors, and hopefully this office hour session will provide a little bit of a relief and entertainment for you on this nice Tuesday. If you have at any point questions during the stream, or you just want to pop in and say hi, or you have a comment, feel free to do so in the comments section of this live stream. I have the feed on my right here, and I'm just looking at it, and if you have a question, I'll repeat it, and I will give you an answer live on the call if I'm able to do so. If I don't have an answer, I'm going to point you in the right direction to get one, either from a colleague of mine or via a quick Google search. Previously recorded episodes of Office Hours are available on academy.groundhogg.io. Right there in the main menu, I just put up the previous 3 Office Hours sessions, all really, really good stuff, so I highly recommend you go check those out and watch them. Great content to be found there. And without further ado, we're just going to jump into it. Again, if you have questions at any point during the stream, feel free to pop those in the comments section. So we're talking about 3 pillars of a growing product business in 2020 and what you as Groundhogg users can do and as business owners can do to get more clients while we're all sitting stuck at home, unable to go enjoy the benefits of living in free countries. So we're going to, first of all, we got to go over what those pillars are. What are the 3 3 pillars of a growing product business? So the first pillar is obviously pretty intuitive. It's product. You have to have a product in a product business in order to be a product business. So let's talk about what actually makes a good product. I see a lot of businesses misidentify themselves as product businesses when they're actually service businesses. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the difference between product and service-based businesses. But first, what makes a good product? Well, first of all, the product has to solve a problem. That's fairly true of any product out there. If there's no problem being solved, then it's not really useful to anybody who would actually want to buy it. So that's the first one. The second one is what I call low cost of distribution. It is much easier for product businesses to grow rapidly when they have something called a low cost of distribution. We're going to get into that a little bit. The third one is recurring revenue, either monthly recurring revenue or yearly recurring revenue. Again, we're going to talk about that a little bit more when we talk about pricing. These types of products are generally digital product, info product, or physical product. Might be software, might be a PDF, might be a course. That's an information product. And then the last mark of a good product is that it has tiered pricing. And again, I'm going to go way deep into that and share with you what I've learned about running a product company. I have some pictures of Nerf guns here on the side, and not too long ago, I had a fairly large stash of these toys. To my mother's, she didn't enjoy picking up Nerf darts everywhere, but I chose Nerf guns as an example of a good product because it satisfies every single one of these conditions, whether you realize it or not. So does it solve a problem? Yes, it solves a problem. The problem is it solves your kids being ridiculously bored and annoying you. You just go to the Walmart, you pick a couple of these up, you bring them home, and they're entertained for the rest of the day. Solves a problem, not only for the child, but for the parents as well. They have a low cost of distribution. It's a mass-produced product. Their cost to actually create one of these toys is cents on the dollar, and they have, excellent distribution channels through Amazon, through Walmart, etc. The list goes on. So they have a low cost of distribution. They have recurring revenue. And now you may be thinking, well, this is just a physical product. I go to the store, I pick one up, I never have to buy something again. And while that's technically true, all of those darts you see there have to be replaced at least once a week. because they just go missing, either outside, inside, they end up in the trash, they end up wherever under couches, and you have to constantly replenish that. So while it's not necessarily a true recurring revenue model in like the subscription sense, there is recurring revenue because you have to constantly be replenishing your Dart supply. It is, of course, a physical product, and they have tiered pricing. I included 2 pictures of 2 of the available toys. There is a small, tiny pistol up at the top there, and then there is a larger, kind of like, bigger, like, big boy rifle there to play with. Now, they have a wide range of toys to choose from in the Nerf gun category, and no child wants to be stuck with kind of like the Pee-wee shooter when they could have something that's large and bulky and fires really, lots and lots and lots of darts very, very, very quickly. So they have tiered pricing within their spread of the various models of toys that they can choose from, constantly causing envy among their consumer base because, you bring your toys, you bring your guns over to your friend's place, you play, he's got the newest model, and you're kind of, you got the older model. What do? You go to Walmart and you get the newer model. So I think that the Nerf gun is a great example of what makes a really, really, really good product because it satisfies every single one of those conditions. So let's talk about cost of distribution a little bit and delve into that. You may not realize that you have a low cost of distribution or a high cost of distribution product at the moment, but I think it's important. So first of all, the cost of distribution is just what it costs to get your product to the consumer and deliver on your promise. So the cost of distribution for a software company is incredibly low because all it requires you to do is either for them to install an app, it requires them to install maybe a plugin on their site, or to just simply create an account and log in. Your promise of software delivery is fulfilled at that stage. So your cost of distribution is extremely low. You have no physical product, so you have no kind of like distribution overhead. The only distribution costs that you might have, for example, maybe a software as a service company, is the cost of maintaining servers and an IT team. While for a plugin company, it's a lot less, I can assure you. And your cost of distribution is, development and maintenance and so on and so forth. Maybe support you can bundle into that cost. But overall, it's relatively low in compared to the actual receipt of product, meaning that the revenue that you gain from someone buying the product is less than the cost of distribution. Information products also incredibly low. For example, if you're just selling a course, you can sell the same course with the same information to an indefinite number of people. So it makes it incredibly easy to constantly just sell that course. Again, so that totally, that decreases your cost of distribution the more people that you actually have sign up for the same course, which is, I think, really, really, really interesting. Physical products have a low to medium cost of distribution. It depends on your shipping and the actual cost of manufacturing, R&D, etc. It's only really low cost of distribution if you're mass producing a product, like the Nerf gun, for example. Medium cost for smaller businesses because they obviously don't have a large of a customer base and they have to shell out shipping costs and compliance and all of that other stuff. So they have a medium cost of distribution. Now, the problem comes in when you have a service-based business. Maybe you're a digital marketing agency, or you are a dry cleaner, or you are any kind of one of those a service-based businesses where you have to have humans doing the work. That is when you have something called a high cost of distribution, because you have to, without people in your business doing the work, there is no business. And you're responsible for salaries, you're responsible for CPP and EI, you're responsible for employment insurance and all of that good stuff, which can quickly eat up the margins of your service. Service is not a product, is essentially what I am trying to say, because you have to have the human component in order to enable that product's continuous development and distribution. I am a huge advocate for service-based businesses introducing product components to their business. I'm not saying that having a service-based business, and I just realized that my camera is totally covering where it says high cost of distribution. Service-based businesses are excellent, and we can't do business without them. but they can introduce product components to their business to offset their service costs. For example, a service-based agency business can absolutely introduce their own software, their own information product, or their own physical products in order to offset their service costs. One of the ways that we, for example, when I was in in the digital marketing agency, we built Groundhogg as a solution for software to provide our agency clients. That way we'd get our revenue from the product, as well as we'd get the service revenue from actually using the product and implementing it for them. I think agencies need to invest more time, and service-based businesses in general need to invest more time in creating these scalable products that have low costs of distribution. That way they can focus on providing excellent service at the same time as not having to worry about paying bills at the end of the month because you lose one client. I also want to talk about pricing. So moving on from the cost of distribution model or point, let's talk about my foolproof pricing model. I did not come up with this model. This has been around for a long time, and you've probably seen it in 1,000 other places. But it's important nonetheless. If you are providing a product, so you have one of these low cost of distribution products, either software, information, or physical, then you need to have tiered pricing. So tiered pricing looks like this. You have your good plan or your good package. You have your better package or your better plan, and then you have your best package. If you go to the Groundhogg pricing page, you will see this reflected as basic, plus, and pro packages, labeled from left to right on our pricing page. It's a little bit laid out a little bit differently here. The interesting thing about the good, better, best plan is that it averages out to a specific percentage of customers which go into each plan. And this is true. I checked my stats before getting on this call, and it's pretty much holding up exactly as you'd expect. So for the good plan, the distribution of customers that choose each looks like this. 30% will immediately just go for your basic kind of like bottom of the barrel plan. So whatever like the lowest feature set costs, 30% will go there. 10% will go for the better plan. And I'll explain why that is in a second. So 10% of customers will go for the better plan. And then the vast majority, 60%, will go for the best plan that you offer, which is our pro package minus the agency package. Which is really, really interesting. You'd think it'd maybe be even, or you'd think it would be more skewed towards the good or better plans. And you think that not a lot of people would go for the best plan, but that doesn't hold up. And the reason is the difference between the good and the best plan is so vast that there's not really any point in purchasing the better plan when you might as well just go straight for the best plan. So the difference between the better plan and the good plan is nominal, but the difference between the better plan and the best plan is significant. Then most people will rationalize, well, if I'm not going to get the basic plan, so the bottom of the barrel plan, if I'm not going to get that, I might as well just shell out for the best one. And that's what the vast majority of customers do. So you actually get a very limited number of people in that middle column, which is basically just there to differentiate between your basic plan and your pro plan, or your good plan and your best plan. So very, very, very interesting economics. Now, if you remove that better plan, which is really interesting, if you remove that better plan and you only have good and best, then you're actually going to see more people skew towards the good plan and not the best plan, which is really interesting. It ends up being closer to like 50-50 or maybe even 40-60 in favor of the good plan. But by introducing that middle plan, the better plan, which is only marginally better than the good plan, you can get this distribution, which is really, really, really good. I think that is the most times I've ever said better, best, and good in a single string of sentences. So I'm going to move on swiftly from this, so I stop saying it. But if you don't have this kind of pricing or this tiered pricing for your products at the moment, you should absolutely invest in doing so. Take a look at the Groundhogg pricing page, study it, learn it, and you yourself can have this level of distribution among your tiered products. All right, so let's move on to pillar number 2. Pillar number 2 is content. Every business kind of needs content to complement their products. And we're going to talk about what makes good content. So similar to the product, your content must solve problems. So your content has to solve a problem. Every piece of content has the intent of solving or answering a question that a potential customer might have. Your content should not be focused on selling products. It should be focused on helping people get answers to questions. Those questions might be questions about your product, but it should always be focused on answering those questions. If you're not answering questions and you're not helping, and you're just selling, you're not going to experience great results. I highly recommend that you build trust by being open. And what I mean by that is using your personal self in your content and telling stories that directly relate to your business. It might be an anecdote. It might be a personal story that you went through. It might be something that you've done or something that you experienced. But usually honesty is the best policy. And by sharing with customers, or potential customers, your experiences in your business and the lessons that you've learned can very much build a level of trust, and people will only buy from people that they trust. So I have a few tips for creating better content. So let's start off. So I mentioned this a little bit. You want to use personal stories or case studies to make your points. It's all well and good to kind of just tell someone the way that it is, or tell someone that something is the way that it is. I find that you will have a better experience imparting that knowledge onto somebody else by backing it up with personal experience. So backing it up with a personal story or a case study of one of your customers. I usually find that works a little bit better. Don't be afraid to insert yourself into your company brand. I mean, I'm plastered pretty much all over the Groundhogg website, and I'm also plastered all over the Facebook group, and I have attached my name more or less to my company, which is fine. If I ever plan to sell the company, I don't think that'll be too much of an issue. But again, it's all about building trust. By attaching a personal or a person to a company brand, to your company, you are giving it personality and giving someone people to trust. I think that a lot of people trust me, and I had a couple of calls today, and I shared with them my knowledge because I've been so vocal and so honest about my past experiences that they took what I was telling them very, very, very well, even if it's not something that they wanted to hear. So by attaching yourself and your own personality to your company brand, I think will yield more and better results as a result of you being trustworthy. Let your personality shine through. That ties into what I previously said. Don't be afraid to insert your own personal, touch into your articles, to your content, into your videos. Encourage conversation. One of the things that I think you should absolutely do is encourage conversation, encourage comments on your blog posts, encourage comments on your YouTube videos. Even if it's just as blatant as dropping a note saying, hey, listen, you should engage with this, and here's why. We will send out something or other, or we're gonna just start the conversation that way. So you should encourage conversation. And lastly, this is something that I learned recently and have yet to really implement a lot, but I think is still valuable nonetheless, is that you should believe that it's okay to go off topic. Now, when I say going off topic, I mean it's okay to not talk about things which are specifically related to your company. So, I mean, I'm a software company, or we're a software company rather, and we produce software. So a lot of our blogs are related to, self-hosting software, comparisons between Groundhogg and other products, and that's great and all. And you should absolutely have that content, but it's okay to not talk about software every once in a while, even if you're a software company. It's okay to start talking about pricing, and it's okay to talk about sales, and it's okay to talk about your experience in the Galapagos, or it's okay to talk about your walk across Spain, or it's okay to talk about other things that you've experienced that you believe that you can help somebody else with, because they might find that content just by chance, by Googling stuff, and find out about your company through that experience that never really had anything to do with your company in the first place. So that's something that we're experimenting with right now. But I will pull an anecdote. I co-host a podcast with Jonathan Denwood. It's called WP Tonic. And he was telling me that he recently wrote a blog article just about how to do a Facebook Live, right? His company is an affiliate with Facebook. He doesn't, promote Facebook. He doesn't have any affiliate partnership. He has zero monetary investment in writing about Facebook Live, really, because that's not really his product. But he wrote that article, and he saw his traffic go through the roof. He's got like 30,000 hits in like a week or something, simply because everybody's trying to do Facebook Live now. So now that he has that content, a certain number of those customers will also need his services, chances are, once you have that big of a sample size of data. So it's okay to write content that isn't specifically related to your business, but you have knowledge on nonetheless, because as long as you're helping someone achieve their problem or solve their problem, your problems will also be solved. You can get what you want if you help enough people get what they want, even if it's not specifically related to your company. Okay, ideas for content. Case studies, always great. Tutorials, always great. This one I like, and is something I learned by going to one of Dan Martell's conferences, and it's lessons learned. And I think this one is really, really, really good because it goes into the use personal stories or case studies to make points. So you can do something like 7 lessons learned from growing a product company, which I think I did an office hours about that, few weeks ago. So, and that I think is very, very valuable because it shares your experiences and your personal triumphs as well as your personal failures. And again, it's all about building trust, and people will buy from people that they trust. So by sharing those stories and those personal and those personal lessons that you've learned, you're continuing to build and foster trust. And finally, personal opinions. Everybody loves to argue with a good opinion. Personal opinions are a great way to get engagement, especially if people disagree with them. You just have to be open to feedback if you decide to go down that road. And if you're saying something controversial, then you're going to have to prepare yourself to have, to end up being able to disagree with someone. The agree to disagree. So just a note on personal opinions. Oh, and didn't mean to do that. All right, let's talk about Pillar 3. Pillar 3 is arguably the most important one besides product and content. Community can be the difference between a good business and an epic business, I think. And there are a few reasons for that. So first of all, what makes a good community? So every pillar of your business should always be solving problems. So your community should be solving a problem for somebody. It might be support, it might be content, it might be, everybody's got a longing for belonging. If you're just providing a space for people to hang out, then that serves a community. But your community has to solve a problem for somebody. A good community generally has a meeting or discussion space. There's something called regular Facetime, and I'm going to talk about that. Every community must have a clear leader. At least the good communities that I see have a clear leader. A clear leader is someone who guides group discussion and is the point of contact for new members, and obviously is also the moderator and can manage conflict. So this group leader is usually the CEO. Like I'm the group leader of the open Facebook group, for example. Other companies have designated group leaders for their particular groups. And 9 times out of 10, it's usually the founder, especially if it's a small business. But you have to define the clear leader of your group. Without a clear leader, it's anarchy. Anybody can say what they want. There's no guidance. There's no engagement. A lot of groups that I see that don't have clear leaders, especially newer ones, have zero engagement because nobody knows what to do. So you have to be the one that posts and engages people and asks questions, creates polls, etc. Every community needs something called supporting resources. That looks like our Academy site, academy.groundhogg.io. That is our supporting resource area for our community. And these are some of the two things that I think people forget or look over when building a community. It has to be easy to join, and it has to be easy to engage. And I think there are people out there building communities who have looked over kind of these 2 points, and I'll talk about what I mean in a moment. So, first of all, let's talk about what's FaceTime. So FaceTime is this, where I get on a live stream on Tuesday at a regular scheduled time every week to appear and to talk and to discuss and to encourage conversation and to get you thinking. That is what FaceTime is. It provides a face to an organization. This can take form in office hours like I do. This format can also be mastermind calls or private calls. But I think most successful communities have an element of FaceTime in them where the group leader or the CEO or whoever is regularly communicating with their audience. Again, it's all about building trust. People buy from people they trust. And by showing your face, you automatically become way more trustworthy than a lot of other businesses out there. So however you choose to show your face, great. That's totally up to you. My format is mastermind calls and office hours. That's just the way that I do it, and I find that it works fairly well. So what do you include in your supporting resources? So one of the things about open communities, especially for software companies like my own, is that everybody is joining that community at a different stage of education. Some people join our community and the world's leading expert on marketing automation, and that's awesome. Some people join our community and they learned about marketing automation yesterday on a podcast and they just found Groundhogg and thought they needed it. There are different levels of education for people when they join. Your supporting resources need to be responsible for bringing everybody up to an acceptable level of education so that they can feel like they can contribute to the conversation. One of the challenges that we have in the Groundhogg Open User Group is that, we get people in here who, again, are the world's leading expert on marketing automation, and they're posting complicated explanations or they're asking complicated questions, and I'm able to answer those. But people who are not as educated look at those and they think, oh, maybe this is a little bit too complicated for me. I don't understand what's going on. And they decide to not engage in the conversation because of that. So you need to have a supporting resource, either a course, help documentation, office hours, this format, whatever it is, in order to bring people up to an acceptable level of education so that they can feel like they can contribute to the conversation. A community without engagement is not a community, it's just a list. So let's recap. That pretty much covers it. Those are the 3 pillars. So quick recap. The 3 pillars of a growing product business in 2020 are product, content, and community. All very, very, very important. For product, you want to focus on products with a low cost of distribution. Very important. If you're a service-based business, you should invest time while we're all locked up at home developing a product with low cost of distribution. It can be an app, it can be software, it can be an information product like a course or a PDF. It can be whatever, but you need to have some kind of product. Better yet, productize your services. We actually have an office hours dedicated to that. I'm not sure which number it is, but if you go through our office hours on the Academy site, you will find that office hours where we talked about productization. Make sure, obviously, you're solving some kind of problem. Avoid falling into the service role. Again, you want to avoid having humans as part of the distribution channel as much as possible. Humans will skyrocket your cost of distribution. And use the good, better, best pricing model to increase your sales. By introducing the good, better, best, you will see a 30, 10, 60 distribution respectively, and greatly increase profits. One of the other cool things about the good, better, best model that I forgot to mention is that it's way more difficult for a customer to say no to 3 options than it is to 2 or 1. If you are presenting a customer with 3 options, that means they have to say no 3 times. Which I think is interesting. If you only have 1 product price, or you only have one or two product prices, that means they only have to say no once or twice. By providing 3 options, they have to say no 3 times. So your chances for making that initial sale become even better. Let's talk about content. So again, focus on helping, not selling. by helping people solve their problems, they will come to you with more problems, at which point you'll be able to sell them the solution. Go off topic every once in a while. Talk about things that aren't directly related to your business, but solve someone's problems nonetheless. And let your personality show through. Don't be afraid to attach your face to every single piece of content that you have, because people trust people. People buy from people. People do not buy from organizations. And finally, let's talk about community. So you want to build a community where your customers are. Did I talk about that? Oh, why is it not there? Oh, that's too bad. I am missing a slide, it looks like, for some reason. Let's see if I can go find it. Maybe it's in my other slide. Huh. Well, that's just too bad. Okay, well, I'm going to quickly just reiterate that then with my missing slide. So I'm going to quickly jump back to community here. So I mentioned meeting discussion space. If you have a meeting discussion space, you have to go where your customers are. If you're not where your customers are, then it's not going to be easy to join or easy to engage. A lot of my customers are already on Facebook, so that's where our community is. That's where our Facebook group is. A lot of people are on Slack, so if your community is on Slack, then have your community on Slack. If your community is on Instagram, that's where your customers hang out, then your community will be on Instagram, right? A lot of, I think a mistake that some business owners make is that they have the idea of building a digital community offside of kind of one of these like social platforms. They want to build their own forums. They want to build their own. A lot of people use BuddyPress, and this is not in any way indicative of how good a platform I think BuddyPress is. But I think that ignoring the fact that so many people's customers are on these platforms already, that is an opportunity for you to provide an easy way to join and an easy way to engage. By forcing people to be on your self-hosted community, I think is getting in the way of people engaging with your content and with your other members. Imagine I think the average person spends like 2 hours a day or 3 hours a day on Facebook. If people are constantly engaging in your group on Facebook, they're seeing that in their feed, and it provides them an easy way to jump back into the group and start engaging again with your content. If you only have, for example, let's say, the Buddy Boss forum or that community, then they have to get an email, they have to open the email, they have to then click the link, and it's a lot harder for them to engage. And I think your engagement rate will suffer if you only have the kind of private community. You can still have it, but do not ignore the merits of having a community on one of these social platforms. Okay, so let's go back to our recap here. Be a leader and guide the discussion, the group discussion. Without guidance, it is anarchy, and you don't want anarchy. And you should absolutely be meeting with members during regularly scheduled FaceTime events, office hours, mastermind calls, whatever you want to do. Just make sure that you're communicating with your customers on a regular basis that they can expect. So it's consistent. Okay, we're at the end. Those are the 3 pillars of a growing product business in 2020. We have reached the 34-minute mark, which means it's time for a question and answer. You can now ask questions about Groundhogg, about WordPress, about some of our extensions, about marketing automation, about email marketing, whatever roadblocks you're currently experiencing with our software or other roadblocks, maybe for sales and pricing. You can now ask me, as well as our community, an answer to your burning question. I will repeat it live and do my best to provide you with a credible answer. Jonathan says, great presentation. Thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate that. I gave you a shout out about your Facebook Live article and how that's doing really, really well. If nobody has questions, then great, we'll be able to wrap up early. But if you do have a question and you need an answer, it could be about, how to set up a specific funnel, could be about how to send broadcast email, it could be about you want to achieve some sort of specific goal or grow your business to a certain point. I will do my best to provide you with a credible answer that will lead you on the path to achieving that roadblock, or overcoming that roadblock, rather. Eric Sanders asks, question about the Zoom integration. The calendar doesn't properly show in Safari. That should, yeah. So if you're having a problem with the calendar and it's not showing correctly, or there's some sort of bug with it, that's a support ticket. If you wouldn't mind just shooting in a support ticket, and I'm going to get that to the developer of the calendar extension, and they'll make a fix to that. So yeah, if anybody has any problems, or there's any glitches, or there's something not working properly, support ticket is definitely the best way to get a quick and succinct answer to that. That way it can be assigned to the appropriate staff member, and we're going to get that solved for you. There's a question from Matt Fraser, and he's asking, if someone does not show up or misses a scheduled meeting with the Groundhogg booking calendar, is there a way to trigger sorry you missed the appointment campaign with the purpose of getting them to reschedule? That's a really interesting use case. I suppose that the best way to accomplish that would be to just log in to Groundhogg, maybe apply a tag to the contact record, which starts off a reschedule appointment funnel. I think that would be the ideal way. I think there's no tracking for if someone actually attended a meeting or not. That's an interesting use case though. But I think the best way to do that now would be to have a specific funnel dedicated to missed appointments. So what you can do is you can just log into Groundhogg using the contact record, go to the specific contact record rather, and then apply a tag, and then that will launch a series of funnels asking them to reschedule. At which point, once they reschedule, the other funnel will kick off and send them all the reminder emails and whatnot. I think that would be the best way to go about that, Matt, if you're listening to this. All right, questions. Feel free to drop a question in the stream chat here, and I will repeat it and answer it live for you. So I suppose if there's a lack of questions, that means one of two things. Either I'm doing a really, really great job at answering questions ahead of time, or I'm not approachable enough, and I really hope it's not the former. So I think what we're going to do is, I'm not seeing any new questions. Oh, Michael says he's just coming in, and it looks like he might have a question to ask. Welcome to the call, Michael. If you have a question, feel free to drop it in. Just FYI, there is something like a 20 to 30 second delay from when words leave my mouth to when you actually hear them on your end. So if there's any sort of like delay in between you asking a question and me answering, that is the reason for that. Michael asks, do we have any more Academy courses coming up? We have a lot of them planned. It's just a question of execution. Courses are pretty low on the priority list at the moment. We made a big push on making more courses available and more information available on the Academy in the first quarter. Are we still in the first quarter? No, we're in the second quarter. Yeah, we made a big push on education in the first quarter. And now in our second quarter, we're focused on improving the core product a lot. We have a big performance update scheduled, as well as a big reporting update scheduled, and that's what we're currently focused on. And then in Q3, I'd like to go back to kind of getting some of those more courses. The courses that I'd like to create is, we created the Course Creators Essentials one, and that was really is popular and is successful, and I think is helping people who use LMS as part of their business plan. And the next one I'd like to do is e-commerce essentials for businesses that have an e-commerce component. And then after e-commerce essentials, I'd like to do consultant essentials. So anybody who's a consultant or a service-based business, I'm going to have an essentials course for those people, and the sales aspects of of being a consultant and using Groundhogg for your consulting business. So those are the 2 courses that I'd like to create sooner rather than later. Have a few things to get off our plate first for. Eric has a follow-up question about pricing. You do 1, 3, 10. What's the distribution of value of features? Because you want to build in extra value for money. How do you determine that? So for anybody coming on late, Eric is referring to this. So the good, better, best pricing model provides the following distribution. So the good plan, so your lowest plan, your cheapest plan, will get 30% of customers signing up. Your better plan will get around 10% of customers. And then your best plan will get 60% of the volume. The reason this happens is because generally the good plan and the better plan are not separated by a large amount of value. The 99 to the 299 or the level of features is not necessarily, there's not a whole lot of reason to get the better plan versus the good plan. But what the better plan does is separate the good plan from the best plan by providing that kind of middle of the road area. Now, the value between the best plan and the better plan is much more significant than the good plan, or at least it should be. That way, the thinking of a customer looking at this pricing distribution says, well, there's not a whole lot of difference in between the better plan and the good plan. I don't want the good plan, so I might as well just go for the best plan and just shell out to get the best features and get the best support or whatever it is that you want to do. That is why the distribution works out the way that it does. And I will show you a live example by going to Groundhogg, our pricing page, and showing you how that works. So I'm going to go full screen here. So here is our good, better, best model. We actually have an additional plan specifically for agency customers. So we're going to ignore that for the purposes of this explanation. But we have Pro, Plus, and Basic, which is best, better, good, respectively. And we actually have something that we do is at the bottom, we actually keep a tally of the difference in total value of each plan if you were to buy every extension separately. So we can see that the savings of getting the Plus or getting the Pro plan is up to like $2,000. The savings of the Plus plan is around $1,100, and then the savings of the good plan is only $150. So a lot of people will go straight for this one simply because it's cheap and they just want to be a customer and they need one of these. They need one of these feature sets here, so they'll immediately just go for that one. But when it comes to these two, they're thinking, well, I don't want this. I want this, but there's not a whole lot of difference in between this and this. So I might as well just get the Pro plan and shell out the extra however many dollars it is. You determine value by, well, however you want to value it. So Eric's the second part of that question, Eric asks, how do you determine the extra value that you want to put into your tiered pricing plans? And we actually spent a lot of time deciding that ourselves, Eric. And really, it depends on... you kind of just have to pick something eventually. You just have to decide on something. We decided eventually that we'd put integrations in our Pro plan. All integrations, except for the form integrations, would immediately go on our Pro plan. Anything to do with e-commerce, SMS, anything, Pro plan. And the more advanced stuff, Pro plan. Everything else can get shoved into Plus or Basic. All plans get expert support. Is basically where we ended up. We have a lot of integrations, hence a lot of value in the Pro plan, justifying this total number here. So that is how we did that. So more features, obviously, in each consecutive better plan, more value, hence higher cost. That's at least how I look at it. You may have a different pricing structure. One of the pricing structures that we used to have was good, better, best, but only for All Access Pass. And our All Access Pass was We basically just differentiated value based on the number of sites you could activate it on. We left that behind, and I think that was a better choice for us in the long run. But that is also something you do. Basically, just differentiating cost on a single factor of your product. For example, software as a service companies will sometimes do this based on the number of contacts that you have. So that is an option for tiered pricing as well, Eric. Eric has a follow-up question, and then D has a question. I will answer your question, D, in a moment. Eric asks, now I see also most popular, not just best. Did you test without most popular according to Sinan? I'm not going to try and attempt to pronounce that name. Persuasion, that's a game changer. I did not test without most popular, so I can't say that I have any personal anecdotal experience. But I will tell you is this: this pricing page format I did not design. I mean, I did design it, but I took inspiration from somewhere else, and I have no quarrel with showing other people where I got this inspiration, because I think it will help you. So there is a guy, his name is Syed Balki. He owns like 8 of the most popular WordPress plugins in existence. And if you go to Monster Insights, which is where my inspiration for my pricing price come from, monsterinsights.com/pricing, you're going to see essentially almost the exact same format of pricing page. It's a little bit different, but to all intents and purposes, it's the same deal. So let's full screen that. So we have our most popular plan. Something that Syed does that I don't do is he has his products eternally on a discount. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think by having your products eternally on discount devalues the product as a whole. And I like to think of Groundhogg as a more premium product offering versus a bargain product offering. It really depends on what you value. I'm sure this works for him though, and Syed's like highly tested this pricing layout through every which way from Sunday, and I'm sure it works really, really, really well. But this is where I found the inspiration for at least our pricing page. And that is why I've kind of adopted this format, because I know that it works for Syed, so I know that it'll work to some intents and purposes for me. And I think it does work really, really, really well because of that. So again, you'll find Plus, Pro, and Agency. So he dropped the basic in this example altogether, and he just has Plus, Pro, and Agency as his good, better, best. So he's targeting specifically a kind of business here, which I think is smart. Again, we also have our agency plan to speak to agencies directly. So for anybody who wants great inspiration for pricing page design, just look at what Syed Balki has. So Monster Insights, Opt-in Monster, WP Forms, WP Beginner, all of those products all belong to Syed. And all of his platforms, you'll notice, look eerily similar to each other. And that's because they're all highly optimized for conversions. And that is why the pricing page is the way that it is. So hopefully that answers your question to some intents and purposes, Eric. Yeah. So D asks, is there a method to the madness not specifying if the cost is USD versus CDN or any other currency? If your price is not listed, it's automatically assumed USD, I think. At least that's the way we look at it. Also, if you immediately come out of the gate using USD, some people who their native currency is not USD might automatically just write it off and not pursue it further. But there's not much reason to not specifying USD or CC. Simply, or other than that, it doesn't really fit nicely in the pricing table. And I didn't want to put it there. You could absolutely add USD or CAD. If you're a Canadian customer, this is important. If you are a Canadian customer, a Canadian business doing business in the United States, I think you should put CAD as a cost in your pricing table, because US clients will see that and automatically think to themselves 30% discount. So it'll be a great way to convert US clients if you're charging in Canadian dollars. If you're only doing business in Canada and you're a Canadian business, you're not going to need to bother with the CAD thing. You're also not going to need to bother with specifying USD. If you are a USD doing business in Canada, it might be helpful to specify USD, although in most cases, if you do business in America and Canada, it's assumed USD. If you are a Canadian business doing business in the US, you should be charging USD, period. We don't accept the Canadian dollar in our business, and the reason for doing so is because when I convert dollars from USD to CAD, it goes 30% further than I would collecting the same amount in CAD. And that is the reason we collect in US dollars exclusively. If you're a Canadian business, by the way, and you're listening to this call, you can set up an American bank account through Toronto Dominion, but it's actually a Canadian bank account, but it collects US dollars, and they are one of the only banks that do that. So all of our banking is set up through Toronto Dominion. We have a Canadian account for expenses and payroll. We have a USD account to collect to collect revenue, and to accept license fees and Stripe and PayPal and all that stuff. And then what we can do is we convert our USD to CAD at like a 30% plus conversion, because the Canadian dollar is tanked right now, and my money essentially goes 30% further. So we can do a lot more with the revenue that we get, which is really, really great. So if you're a Canadian business doing business in the United States, collect in USD. That is a pro tip from me. Okay, we are at the 53-minute mark. Hopefully I've answered everybody's questions to some extent, except Eric has a follow-up, so we're going to answer that before we stop. Question about SMS, sorry. I assume you can trigger a funnel through a link in an SMS message. Only the links don't look very friendly. Any tips? I think it's been a while since I used SMS. I stopped using SMS for the most part. I didn't find that it was getting good engagement for at least for my customers. I'm sure it's different for other verticals. So it's been a while since I've actually used it. I don't do a lot of the development anymore. I have Drumit and a few others helping me with that. You can actually disable the link convert, so the link in the SMS message gets converted into a tracking link, which is stored in a database table and then used to redirect someone to the destination with all of their information and whatnot. So you can disable that behavior, but if you want to trigger a funnel for a contact, then you won't be able to do so with the tracking link conversion disabled. Kind of like the same way that link click tracking works in emails, the link gets rewritten to a special tracking link. And the same happens in the SMS message. It gets converted into a short tracking link, which is then used to reference the contact record. So Eric, if you want that to happen, then you can't touch that link conversion. Hopefully that makes sense and answers your question. If you have a follow-up question, I do need to get off because I have another call in like 5 minutes. But if you have more questions about the SMS, feel free to open a support ticket and we'll get you an answer for that. Or you can just ask in the Facebook group, of course. All right, so we're going to start wrapping it up here. I want to thank everybody, obviously, for coming. I want to thank everybody for participating. We got a lot of engagement today, which is awesome. And we had like 15 to 17 people on the call, which is the most we've had in a while ever since this whole COVID thing started. So awesome. I appreciate you for taking the time. If you need further help, go to academy.groundhogg.io. Again, talking about those community resources to get everybody on the same page. So if you're not on the same page as the rest of us, go to academy.groundhogg.io, take a couple of our courses, get educated on everything Groundhogg and the best way to use it. If you need implementation help and you're not interested in taking courses or getting up to speed, then we have a certified partner directory with certified partners in there to help you with a lot of that implementation. And if you think that you have a colleague or you have a business venture or maybe a friend who you think Groundhogg will help, then you can apply to become an affiliate. And if they end up buying anything, we will give you 10% of their purchase. And you can do that at affiliate area /registration. If you're not following us, again, you should be. Lots of updates come out through our Twitter account, Groundhogg WP, and we also post office hours replays on YouTube. So you can go to groundho.gg /YouTube to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And obviously, you should be liking us on Facebook for updates that we push throughout our Facebook page. If you have not left us a review, I would be eternally grateful if you would do so. Reviews allow us to get more clients, which means more features, which means more customers, more developers, and then more features, obviously, that you want and love. You can go to our WordPress.org repository listing to leave a 5-star review. That's /plugins/groundhog at wp.org. If you have more questions and you did not get the opportunity to ask your question on this broadcast, you can have a few options. You can post in the Facebook group your question, and I myself or a community member will answer you. You can continue to comment on the chat of this live stream, and we'll continue to monitor those comments. You can also reach out at Groundhogg WP on both Facebook and Twitter. We have live chat, we have support tickets, we have lots of ways for you to get in touch. All right, thank you, everybody. I hope everybody has a safe week. Office hours next week will take place on Tuesday at 10 a.m. regularly scheduled. Have a wonderful day. And it won't let me end the video.